We're back on another edition of Grizzly Connect. Bryant Johnson with you as we welcome in senior Rocco DeLorenzo with the ASC football team. It was a tough decision for you this morning. You said it was between a three-piece suit and sweats. So how'd you decide?
Yeah, I went with the comfortable route with it. Three-piece suit just wasn't for me this morning.
Rocco, last week you took on a tough UNK team. You played Kearney. They're ranked fourth now. I've always wondered, what's it like for you playing Kearney? Because Coach Morris, he's pretty honest when he discusses the one recruiting mistake he made. It was 4 years ago, letting you get to Adams State. He's still upset that you're not in Kearney. When you play UNK, when do you think about those moments?
Coach Morris, we did talk about me going up there, but it just didn't work out for me. Didn't really agree with his decisions with a lot of stuff, but it worked out. I'm here at Adams. Playing them it's always a challenge. They always have the pretty top-notch offense in the nation. Now I think Spitzelberger's the top guy in the nation as it is. So, we let it get away from us, but we got to move on.
When you take on Kearney, for the last 2 years, 3 quarters, you've been right there with them, but it seems like those extra scholarships they have and the extra depth they have, it really comes into play in the fourth quarter. What do you notice in the fourth quarter that really stands out that Kearney has that a lot of teams don't?
They force you to do a lot of things, but it mostly comes down to discipline. We weren't disciplined. We made a couple crucial penalties late in the game that hurt us. Third and long, 15-yard penalty, first down, another 15-yard penalty, get them on the 2-yard line, and they score. So, there's nothing much we can do about that besides being more disciplined as a team, but we should have beat them. I'll agree to that to the fullest, and it didn't happen, so it's all right. Got to move on.
When you have those one plays, you had 4 personal fouls against Pueblo, and there was the tough questionable holding call on Delton in the Shadron game when it would have been first and goal from the 5, up by 3 with 4 minutes to go against Shadron. These one penalties each game that go your way sometimes and they don't. When you're trying to practice and everything else is taken care of, what does that do in terms of taking wind out of your sails when you have one of those key penalties?
Oh, it definitely makes you just exhale and relax. It makes everyone tighten up more than anything, but we need to learn that it's going to happen to us. We're Adams State. No referees like us. It's been that way since the beginning of time. So, we're never going to catch a break late in the game. It always usually goes against us. So it happens. We got to overcome it and eventually be more disciplined than our opponent.
At the beginning of time, there has been a bias against the ASC football players, dinosaurs, and penalties against you. Apparently, you're a high-profile guy, and everyone recognizes the awards and the accolades, the family history with your mom and dad, with Phil and Patricia, and everything they've done. So people are always around you. But after a game, maybe say a tough loss, when you finally get away from everybody and you're in a room by yourself, what happens then?
Usually after a game, I just go hang out with my family anyways, and all the accolades and everything like that, they don't handle themselves. My family, we're just my family. We expect to be the best, but if it happens, it does. But we have a great time down here. We love it down here, and as you can tell, all my sisters are down here too, so we have a good time.
But you keep the same level of focus and, energy. Keep that together after a game. Nothing happens. You're not throwing things around when you're by yourself and everybody's finally away from you.
After a loss, especially me and my father, we're never too happy, but we usually talk on our own. Mom's not really allowed to come on in because she usually doesn't know what she's talking about half the time, so it's all right. But me and my dad, we have our conversations, but we don't throw stuff.
How smart of a statement was that you just made?
My mom knows a lot of football, let's just say that, but she doesn't usually step in on the conversations between me and my dad.
Rocco DeLorenzo with the ASC football team. Rocco's dad, Phil, was an All-American at this school. When you look at the final 6 games of the year in conference play, and you realize that this year has started out like a lot have, where you've struggled in the first 3 weeks. You always have the toughest schedule in conference play. Some people think that there just isn't that winning culture with everybody. They don't know how to win to end games. Why do you think that is?
You also have to realize that some kids are here for school, but when it comes down to it, it takes the leadership on the team to define the character of the team, which comes down to you want to win each and every play and want to win every game. So I don't know if I believe the fact that some people believe that not everyone's here to win, because if you're not playing the game to win, then why are you playing it? So I feel like everyone's here to win.
Everyone's obviously here to win, but when you look at in-game situations and guys that somehow make mistakes that they haven't been making, where do you see your role in that, in making sure that everybody believes, listen, we're here, we're one score away from getting this victory, and in believing that you can close games out against elite teams.
I mean, you just got to keep them up. You can't let them get down on themselves. I mean, recently we've been riding the highs way too high and riding the lows way too low. So, I mean, this week especially, we've been working on just playing our game, not worrying about what everybody else is doing and what our other opponents doing, because we've been beating ourselves, especially the last 3 games, especially the first 2. So, I mean, we'll be fine. We just got to keep going and just stop beating ourselves when it comes down to it.
Finding that valley between the highs and the lows, the peaks and the bottom, it's so hard at any level of sports. What's been your go-to mentally to ensure that you're keeping a level approach after a win, after a loss?
I mean, after a loss, you just can't let your emotions take over and get mad at people, and you can't point fingers at the coaches or the other kids on the team that made the mistakes, because they didn't make that mistake on purpose. So, I mean, when it comes down to after a win, you celebrate with your team, but it's kind of like a 24-hour rule. You can't be too excited about it after 24 hours because you got another opponent the next week.
It's Rocco DeLorenzo, linebacker, ASC football, replaced Oscar Villa and stepped in at that Mike linebacker position 2 years ago, and the response has been accolade after accolade. Final road trip in the history of Rocco DeLorenzo to the lovely city of Las Vegas, New Mexico. How hard is it going to be for you to go to Vegas for this final time and never get to go to New Mexico Highlands again?
I would be perfectly fine with never going to Las Vegas, New Mexico ever again in my life, but it'll be interesting. It's homecoming week. I feel like every team just wants to have us as their homecoming, and then we're just going to have to go in there and show them how it's done.
Everyone sees athletes in the hallways at school, and they have this relationship with you where they can socialize and, your buddies. But then only they realize when you put that jersey on, you show up in Las Vegas, the things that are said to you and the things that happen. If, you're talking to just a kid in history class about what it's like when you strap on that jersey and you walk through the locker room and the basketball team for Highlands is sitting right behind you and they've got words. I mean, how do you try to explain that to someone who's never lived that moment?
I mean, it's hard to, but the great thing about here is 1 in every 3 students are athletes here, so they pretty much know what you're going through. But I mean, when it comes down to it, it's gonna be intense. The crowds are gonna be hating us because Highlands basketball team hates us beyond belief, especially the football team. And Highlands is the most penalized team in the nation right now, so I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be a good game. A lot of penalties probably on their side, and hopefully we can stay out of it.
Yeah, over 850 yards of penalties on the year. They're leading defensive players, a USC and Louisville transfer. It's an interesting team. I've never chatted with you about that basketball game. ASC got the 106-98 double overtime win, but it probably wouldn't have happened if football team doesn't take 60 people and move from the northeast corner of the stands to the southeast, and 1 for 2, split the free throws. Highlands can't win the game, goes to overtime, and the rest is history. During that timeout, you guys had 20 seconds to make a choice. Who decided to lead that group of players down to the southeast corner?
I think it was all of us, mostly James Ackle and I, just said, let's go run down and get in their head, because we love nothing more than to get in their head, especially for basketball games. But it's a good time. And my sophomore year, we went down to Highlands, and their basketball team was behind us, sitting right behind our stands, yelling at us and stuff like that, trying to get in arguments with our moms and stuff. So, I mean, they definitely had it coming, and we definitely got them. So it was a good time. We enjoyed it.